some well wishes of a certain form from across the pond in England. The new Tory leader there, Kemi Badenoch, during Prime Minister questioning hour, pressed that wormy beta male, Keir Starmer, the PM there, and his foreign secretary about derogatory comments they made pre-election against Trump.
And so I would like to start by congratulating President-elect Trump on his impressive victory this morning. The Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary met him in September. Did the Foreign Secretary take that opportunity to apologize for making derogatory and scatological references, including, and I quote, "Trump is not only a woman-hating, neo-Nazi sympathizing sociopath, he is also a profound threat to the international order." And if he did not apologize, will the Prime Minister do so now on his behalf?
The Foreign Secretary and I did meet President-elect Trump just a few weeks ago for dinner for about a couple of hours, and we discussed a number of issues of global significance. It was a very constructive exercise.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister did not distance himself from the remarks made by the Foreign Secretary, and I'm very sure that President Trump will soon be calling to thank him for sending all of those North London Labour activists to campaign for his opponent.
That's fun. Prime Minister questioning is always fun. That's one of the things I witnessed her briefly. Has a piece in the Wall Street Journal along those lines as well. The excitement that is bubbling up in Western Europe, at least among conservatives who think that Trump can lead Western Europe out of its stagnation because of the high taxes and the confiscatory regulations and the administrative states that have stagnated those countries. She also, interestingly, after going through that, of those matters, she says she writes, a free trade deal with the UK would benefit both countries. The deal would let Britons avoid tariffs. In exchange, the UK would increase defense spending, abandon net zero targets, and take a firmer line on China, the West's greatest threat. So there's a deal to be made in the direction of free trade, so long as those Western European nations, like Britain here, abandon the policies that have stagnated their economies and depreciated the quality of life in their countries. For more on all of this, we're pleased to be joined, as we are on Wednesdays, by Steve Moore, economist, author of the just-released The Trump Economic Miracle and the Plan to Unleash Prosperity Again, co-authored with Art Laffer. Steve, thanks for being with us. Appreciate
it. Good morning, guys. Well, I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. This has been an amazing week, and I did predict there in Chicago at your Freedom Summit that Trump was going to win a resounding victory, and boy, it's been an amazing week. I listened very carefully to that little brief interchange from the other side of the pond, and I forget who it was, said, "Oh my God, Trump's going to be a threat to the, what was it, global industrial or global world order or something like that." And I thought, good. We need a little disruption in global. Well, things aren't going so well just about anywhere, and we need abrupt and a jolting change. And Trump is going to bring that. And I'm going to make a prediction to you guys. I believe this is what happened when Reagan won his election in 1980. I'm not saying that Donald Trump is Ronald Reagan, but when Reagan won his incredible victory in 1980, it moved the country in a much more free market direction. It reverberated throughout the world, and all of a sudden you saw all these other countries in the world moving more towards free markets and less government control and away from socialism. And I think that could be the impact. And if that's disrupting the global world order, I'm all in favor of it.
Absolutely. No, I mean, that's, leadership builds consensus. The situation on the Hill, what's your handle on the election for Senate Majority Leader today?
I don't have a really good. I mean, I know it's down to. It looks like it's down to John Thune and maybe Rick Scott, and then John Cornyn.
Right.
I haven't talked to senators, so I don't have any inside information about that.
Do you have a
Rick Scott,
preference? Yeah.
Well, I mean, Rick Scott is a staunch fiscal conservative, and so I'd love to see him. But he also ruffles some feathers, and so he might not be selected. But I'm for Rick Scott in that race.
And assuming as it's projected that Republicans retain the House.
They'll win the House, yeah.
So then, how fast, in your bailiwick here, you and Laffer and Kudlow and Forbes, how fast can Trump go on matters economic, and in which direction?
Well, I think right out of the gate, and incidentally, isn't it interesting, by the way, then you have all these close races, that are within, 300 votes or 400 votes or, some of it, a few dozen races that are, within even less than that. And all of a sudden, the Democrats seem to always find new ballots. Have you noticed that? Oh, look at that. There's a ballot. There's a bag. I do believe, I know you have a lot of listeners in Wisconsin. I think there's a fair, look, the entire night the Republican was winning that race, and by more than a percentage point. Then all of a sudden, the next morning they say, "Oh, he's won by 1,000." I don't know. When you had 100,000, I was told that in Wisconsin they had 100,000 so-called same-day registration voters coming in Milwaukee. That raises my antenna to think maybe there's some fraud going on there. But the Republicans will end up with probably 221 or 222 seats, and they will have a very slim majority. And it looks like that the leadership team there, I thought Johnson, under the circumstances, did a good job. I'm in favor of him being the Speaker of the House. And that means they've got the trifecta. They got the House, they got the Senate, and they've got the presidency. Don't squander this moment. I do think Trump really has a mandate. Incidentally, in our hotline today, you haven't seen it yet, Dan and Amy, because it just came out a very short time ago. Do you know what, by far, there was an autopsy of the election with all the exit polling data. Do you know what, by far, the two biggest issues were that swayed voters to Trump?
Immigration and the economy.
Well, you got it pretty much exactly right. Illegal immigration was number one. Mm-hmm. You're exactly, and then number two, economy, but it was inflation, which is an economy thing. It's something, Amy, you and I have been talking about every week for the last 3 years, and they never solved those problems. They never solved the illegal immigration problem. They never solved the inflation problem. Americans hate it when every time they go to the store, things cost more. They hate it that you go to McDonald's with your two kids and you pay $35. So that's going to be the top priority, Dan and Amy, is getting. By the way, we just got a new inflation report that just came out like 10 minutes ago. Inflation's ticking up again a little bit in the last months of Biden. So Trump has to get that border secure, and he's got to get prices back a level because Americans are sick of it.
Okay, so now back to my question, which you very carefully dodged. So what is, like, out of the gate? There's things he's going to be doing specifically on a number of issues simultaneously. Yeah. When it comes to addressing inflation, what specifically are you urging him to do out of the gate?
Well, there's a big fight, Dan. I'm sure you've been probably following it, between Jerome Powell and who's the Fed chairman and Trump. And Trump wants him out, And now I don't know if he's going to get rid of him immediately, but Powell he's saying what?
He can't get rid of him. So now Powell's.
Why? Okay. No, wait a minute. Hold a second here. Why? Why is it that the president can't fire the Fed secretary?
Well, I mean, I'm just saying what the law is. Now, if you want to change the law, then if that's going to be your first thing out of the gate, then okay. I mean, I don't think it should be. But
Dan, I think that is undetermined whether the president would have the authority to. We don't know that. And incidentally,
so is that the fight? Is that the fight you want first out of the gate, or do you want to do something?
Well, probably. Yeah. Well, probably not. It's just that I'm so sick of Powell's.
Well, Powell's terrible. I know, but you got to work around him.
Okay. So we're gonna produce more oil and gas, and we're gonna bring energy prices down, and that not only brings the gas at the pump down, but it also, because energy is a component of everything we produce, that's going to lower prices. We are going to cut government spending. I love this Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, government reform oversight commission. I love when Vivek said, I can cut $2 trillion of the budget because when I took over Twitter, I cut 80% of the expenses. That's what you need, a Hoover vacuum cleaner going through the entire all of the federal agencies and just, find all the waste and abuse and fraud. It's in the hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars. When you cut government spending, you reduce inflation.
The Bill Ackman, I wanted to get to him too as well. He billionaire investor who became a Trump supporter, even though he's a Democrat, had enough of his party. He's very optimistic about America becoming an economic powerhouse again. One of the things he suggested, he's for border enforcement, so let me just say that as the predicate to what he suggested. But he wrote, imagine if we could vet applicants who wanted to bring their talents and resources here in a 45 to 60-day process, as long as they met certain standards for excellence and character. This is not a particularly challenging problem, and that's before comparing it with catching a super heavy rocket with chopsticks, obviously a Musk reference. We could open the floodgates for entrepreneurs, scientists, engineers, makers, designers, and more who could replace the illegal migrants and those who have been consuming resources and bringing crime to our cities and towns. He believes that new skilled immigrants that are processed into this country in an orderly but expeditious fashion could be a force multiplier.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement with that, and Trump has basically pretty much said the same thing. He keeps saying, we want people to come in legally, not flowing over the border. We don't know who they are. And, what you're talking about is what my buddy Larry Kudlow calls the brainiacs. And it is one of the keys of American success over the last 50 years is, all the smart people in the world want to come here. And that's why we've become by far the number one country in technology and artificial intelligence and robotics and social media. Why not? Why? It's like, think of it this way. Imagine the Chicago Bulls, which aren't very good these days. But imagine every year the Chicago Bulls got every one of the top 10 draft picks. Gee, do you think they might win every NBA championship? If they could just select the best players every year, that's what we can do on an economic scale. We can bring the best and the brightest and the hardest working people to this country. And by the way, they don't even be brainiacs. Just even the people working in the fields of picking fruits and vegetables, the people who are, working hard in the kitchens and across the country and the restaurants. Those people contribute, Dan. As long as they're working and paying their taxes and, not committing crimes, that's what we want.
Absolutely. And I love your sports metaphor.
Oh, yes. Oh, I thought you can only use sports metaphors.
I'm giving him a special dispensation.
Real quick, Stephen Moore, who should be in charge of the Department of Treasury?
I should be.
Okay,
All
that's
right.
the answer
There it
I
is.
was waiting for. There
There
you
it
go.
is.
You said it.
Moore should, and then I'm going to take over the world. No, look, I think I love Scott Bessent. He's the one. It's between Scott Bessent and one or two others. He's my choice. I think Larry Kudlow should go back and head up the National Economic Commission. I want the A-team. And Trump does have a real talent for finding talent, and he does. And so it's going to be an exciting time. But I am not giving up my spot with the Dan and Amy show. Trump keeps asking me, would you run this agency or that? I said, no, I'm not giving up my Wednesday mornings working with Dan and Amy as your chief economist.
We appreciate your loyalty. Thank you very much. Our chief economist, Steve
And by
Moore.
the way, when do I get my pay raise? It's been 3 frickin' years, folks. I am not getting a dime. Inflation is up by 20%, and my pay has not gone up one penny.
Our costs are up over here. We got to get economy. We got to implement the plan to unleash prosperity again and get things growing again. Then we can talk.
Will you please talk to the management there? Because,
Yes.
I feel underappreciated.
Yeah, all right. We don't want you
Dan will do that,
unionizing
yes.
or anything. Steve Moore, author of Trump Economic Miracle, and the plan to unleash prosperity again. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Okay, and by the way, it was so fun seeing you guys in person. And Amy, you and I are a great team. I don't know Dan, about Dan, but you and I are a great team.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Stephen Moore. So good seeing you, too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to podcasts of Dan and Amy from the AM5